Hello and good evening, everyone. It's so nice to have you gathered here tonight. My name is Homa Hanjani, and I'm so honored to stand here tonight, not only as a founding member of the Hiba Academy Bay Area, but also as someone who's deeply inspired by the vision of Hiba Academy and why now. Hiba Academy Bay Area is a nonprofit, globally minded English Mandarin school that offers just the right balance of world-class academic excellence, cultural and global understanding, and personal well-being at its heart. Opening in the fall of 2026, we will welcome our founding families in pre-K through grade 1 and in our permanent home that was currently, used to be the Airbnb headquarters. While we're new to San Francisco, Hiba Academy is part of a thriving global network. Wellington College Education currently serves more than 10,000 students across the UK, China, Thailand, India, and Jakarta will be opening soon. Now, Hiba Academy Bay Area is taking root here in our own city of San Francisco, in the Design District. You may have crossed it at 99 Rhode Island at some point. Tonight, surrounded by families, educators, partners, we come together to honor authenticity, community, and the shared purpose of building a better future for our next generation. Hiba Academy Bay Area is more than just a new school. It's a bold commitment to education that is grounded in strong values. It's committed to excellence, driven by purpose, and open to innovation. In just a moment, I will be inviting our founding head of school, Colette McWilliams, to share a deeper introduction of our visionary founder, Qiao. But before I do, whether you're here as a parent, an educator, friend, or a future collaborator, thank you. Your presence tonight matters, and most importantly, your belief in this vision matters.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Colette McWilliams, and I am the founding head of school at Hiba Academy. And I have to say what a privilege it is to be able to say that to a room of wonderful people who are here to learn more about our school. Standing here this evening, I can say there is a sense of awe and excitement in everything we are doing. We are at the very beginning of something truly special, where a vision is about to become reality, and where a new community is about to come to life. A community that upholds academic excellence, where East meets West, and inspires every child to grow with curiosity, confidence, and with heart. My journey in education has been across many continents, from classrooms in the United Kingdom until leadership in Qatar and in the United States. Along the way, I discovered my true passion, which is bilingual international education, where children, eyes are open to a world of understanding and cross-cultural knowledge and transference. I've seen how cultures nurtures curiosity and confidence, qualities that will not only be part of Hiba's Academy's vision and mission, but will be the heart of every decision that we make. But none of this would be made possible without one remarkable woman whose vision brought Hiba Academy to life. It is my great honor tonight to get to introduce Joy Qiao, the founder and chairman of Hiba Academy Bay Area. 15 years ago, Joy opened her first Wellington College in China, building on the distinguished heritage of Wellington College in the UK, which has been around since 1859. Under her leadership, Wellington College, China, has become one of the most respected international education groups, admired for academic excellence, character, and global connection. A graduate of Oxford University with a degree in computer science, Joy brings both intellect and imagination. She and her British husband are raising 2 teenage sons, a family that beautifully reflects the East meets West and defines a philosophy and inspires her in her work. Joy believes that the future belongs to young people who can navigate multiple cultures with empathy and integrity. Young people who honor tradition while shaping innovation. That conviction has brought this vision here to San Francisco, and actually in the perfect week during Dreamforce, which highlights our innovative spirit. To San Francisco, a city that celebrates creativity, diversity, and global connection. It is with immense pride and gratitude that I welcome to the stage the visionary who made Hiba Academy Bay Area possible, our founder, Joy Qiao.
Thank you for those kind words, Homer and Colette. And thank you to all of you who take out a precious evening out of your busy schedule to come and spend with us. And I'm usually based in Shanghai, so I travel here a few times a year, and every time I come, it's a delight to see the community that we're building up. So today is about sharing the vision, sharing the story of Hiba Academy, and I'm going to do that by starting to share my life story. So I was born and brought up in Shanghai. So for those of you who've been to China recently, how many of you have been to China within the past 5 years? Can you raise your hand? Oh, it's actually quite a large majority. I'm very pleased to see that. And so for those of you who've been to China, you probably know this is the Shanghai, the city that I grew up, and it's a beautiful place. I highly recommend a visit if you haven't been yet. However, don't be mistaken, this is not the Shanghai that I grew up in. This was the Shanghai that I grew up in, the Shanghai in the 1970s. And that was a time of material scarcity, and we were just, we call the policy of reform and opening up, and that was just at the start of that. And so for my whole life, my life's journey is overlapped with witnessing China's amazing transformation economically. So China in the past 40 years has pulled off the most amazing economic miracle in the history of mankind, though the standard of living, the quality of living in Shanghai and many other cities and in the rural area in China has been transformed. And that's sort of the backdrop of the story of what I'm telling as my life's journey. So I grew up in Shanghai. I went to pretty good schools locally, but they are very traditional. So today I was talking to some parents about they don't want children to be sitting in rows and just listen to the teacher. That's the kind of school that I grew up in. And average class sizes tend to be more than 40 students per class. But I did fairly well, and I went to then this university, Tsinghua University in Beijing for a year. So can you raise your hands again if you have heard of Tsinghua University in Beijing? Okay, so I'm talking to an audience who know the kind of, who know the city I was born in, who knew the university I went to. I only spent 1 year in Tsinghua, and this is our class photo at the time. It's only 30 people in one class at the time. What do you notice there? You probably can't see it very clearly. How many girls can you see in this class? Actually, there's 5, but we're sort of all crowded in the you can point it in the front middle. So it's a class of 30 students with 5 girls, and when I left, they were only left with 4. So they were very upset. Only 5 girls in a class, and you leave us. But that was, and we just had our 30 years reunion of entering Tsinghua University this past year, and they've all gone on to do wonderful things in different sectors. However, I had the privilege of having won a full scholarship to go to Oxford University to complete my undergraduate study. So I actually got a degree in computer science from Oxford University in the late 90s. And because I've had experience of Tsinghua and Oxford, and I'll give you, my very own experience, Tsinghua is a very hardworking school. And because I got into Tsinghua by being one of the best in my class in high school, right? Once I got to Tsinghua, and I start to understand there are people much brighter than me. I've always excelled academically, but at Tsinghua, I almost failed at one of the maths tests. I got 62%, which is, if you know China, 60% is the pass rate. I've never ever failed an exam, I think, in my life. Tsinghua, that 62% was pretty close. And we had something like 30 lectures a week in Tsinghua, every week, and every lecture comes with its pretty heavy workload of homework. And then I went to Oxford, and then all of a sudden it's only 10 lectures a week. 10 lectures a week, and every term is only 8 weeks long for 3 terms, so 24 weeks a year you're in term. Majority of the year you're in holiday. And so it's 10 lectures and 2 tutorial. Tutorial is this 1 to 2 small session with a professor who give you individual attention. So in terms of the workload and intensity, definitely Oxford is not as intense as Tsinghua. But what I did feel Oxford taught me is something that I probably didn't have until I left China, which is intrinsic motivation and self-regulation. The education in China throughout high school, including Tsinghua University, was almost filling too much of my time. So there was always something that I need to be doing. And it's all meaningful work, I'm sure. But in Oxford, because the work is so light, there's all of a sudden all this space in your schedule that you can choose what to do with that. And I happened to be not a very good student back then because of the lack of intrinsic motivation. So my reputation among my college friends is that Joy slept through Oxford. So whenever there was nothing scheduled, I chose to stay in the room. And because it's always raining and miserable in England, I just slept a lot. And probably because I never slept enough growing up, because there was so much homework. But anyway, that's the contrast. We shouldn't comment on which one is better or worse, but this made me, this mixture of experience made me who I am today. And the reason why I want to highlight Oxford is sort of leading up to the reason why I'm doing what I do now, is that I met my husband in Oxford. So Martin is a mathematician, so he studies maths, and I do computer science. And in the very first year of a computer science course, we share the same maths course with the maths major students. So and Martin came back with me to China in year 2002. We got married in 2004, and we gave birth to my older son in 2005 and younger son James in 2007. So this is a slightly older photo now. I struggled to find a photo of all 4 of us where both boys are collaborating beyond this age. So Daniel, the older one now, is in fact 20 years old. He's currently doing his sophomore year in Caltech University in Los Angeles. I'll be flying there on Friday to see Daniel. So this is my treat at the end of the business trip. James is finishing up his studying at Northfield Mount Hermon, which is a boarding school near Boston on the East Coast. He's in the process of applying to university now. So both of them were the reason why I started thinking about setting up a school. So after I gave birth to Daniel and James, in about 2008, I was starting to look for a nursery for Daniel. And for Daniel and James, in our kind of family, being bilingual is not a nice to have. It's actually a must have. Because my parents, my mum speak a fairly good English, but not fluent, not to a fluent level. My father doesn't speak any English at all. And for Martin's parents, they don't speak a word of Chinese. So if my children were to be able to interact with both sides of the family, then being fluently in both languages is a must-have rather than a nice-to-have. Now, I look around this room, and I'm sure many of you are probably in similar situations. You probably have a family with relatives from multiple cultural backgrounds, speaking different languages. Therefore, you know the importance of children being able to fit in on both sides. And this is what prompted me to think what kind of education I want to give to my boys. And also, because at that time I happened to have just finished my EMBA degree with the CEIBS Business School in China. So it's the China-Europe International Business School in China, which is a partnership between the Chinese government and the European government. And I was in an entrepreneurial spirit. I wanted to start something. So the two of these, me wanting to start up my business and the need of my own children's education prompted me to think, should I be doing an international school? Because there were already schools like British branded schools, like of Dulwich or Harrow back in Beijing at that time. And I thought, because we take the boys to go and visit Martin's family once or twice a year anyway. So I go back to England all the time anyway. Maybe I can do something similar and set up my own school. There's something wonderful about being young and naive, is that you think you have an idea and you can just go ahead and do it. And that's indeed what I did. I was 32 at the time. I quit Intel. By the way, I worked for Intel for 10 years in England, in Germany, and in China. And Intel in the late 90s was in its peak, isn't it? And as was Sun Microsystem. So I'm very used to an American work culture because that's the only company I've ever worked for. And then after that, I started my business. So the workplace culture is probably a combination of a US and UK workplace culture. It's quite international, quite multicultural. Anyway, so that's what prompted me and gave me the idea. And then I had an opportunity to partner with a landlord who was in the process of developing a whole district in Tianjin. And as part of the district, they wanted a good international school because a good international school would attract high net worth family to go and live in the district, then they can sell their luxury apartments, they can rent out their office building. That's their business model. So they were willing to build a custom-made, built-to-order campus for me if I'm able to find a good partner who will run an international school in Tianjin. That's our first city. That's how this whole story started. Equipped with this opportunity of a custom-made campus, I traveled around England and met with various different schools and immediately clicked with Wellington College because it just so happened that Wellington College, which was founded by Queen Victoria herself back in 1859, and had a very pioneering, visionary master at the time, Sir Anthony Selden, who is probably the most reputable, famous, well-known master of any high school in England. Colette probably have heard of him. He has been looking for a partner in China apparently for a couple of years prior to me approaching him because he always wanted to take Wellington College international. Because in his mind, a 21st century education has to come with a global perspective. So he wanted to form these international partnerships and having Wellington College campuses outside of England for the purpose of their students and our students will be able to grow up, having interaction, having communication, having do projects together, travel to each other, do camps together, and teachers will have opportunities to work internationally so that the community have a much broader global perspective than a single standalone school in the UK. That's the vision behind Sir Anthony Selden. That's exactly the vision, I had of bringing up children who are bilingual, multicultural, as well as with the global perspective. So this is the Wellington College. Is a beautiful boarding school. The number one, voted many times the number one co-educational boarding school in the UK now. And if you ever go to the UK, this is not far from Heathrow Airport, just 40 minutes drive, so it's worth a visit as well. So that's the partner that we found. Just to show I'm quite proud of this picture, so it does come. And this also to show the prestige of Wellington College. Queen Elizabeth II herself personally went to the 150th anniversary of Wellington College back in 2009, just when we were in the middle of discussing this potential partnership. So this model you see here is in fact the model of the building of our Tianjin campus. We made it in China and we shipped it all the way to the UK. And I had the honor of talking with Her Majesty the Queen for 3 minutes myself, introducing the Tianjin project, which it's such an honor. But it goes to show the prestige of Wellington College because they do have royal visitors regularly. So the Queen herself, in her lifetime, apparently visited Wellington College no less than 5 times. And prior to that, it was King Edward VII, and prior to that, it was Queen Victoria. So the head of the state is always a visitor of Wellington College. And this is the formal signing ceremony between myself and Wellington College. This is the very famous Sir Anthony Selden, the very charismatic master, 13th master of Wellington College. This is the chair of the board at the time, Sir Anthony Goodenough. And I was a one-woman shop at the time. I didn't have any staff. And because they had 2 people, I dragged Martin, my husband, as the other person. So we had this balanced signing ceremony for the partnership. And the rest is history. Remember, in the first slide, I talked about the rapid economic development of China. And that is the backdrop of everything that happens in our organization and in many other sectors and companies. Then as soon as the partnership agreement was signed, we just went through this rapid galloping of development. And by the way, I'm not a very ambitious person. The number of schools is never something that I pursued. But with the same partner, so we opened in 2011, Wellington Tianjin. Do you remember the signing ceremony was back in 2010? This is the building speed of China. All of these campuses basically take 18 months to build. From breaking ground to all the fit out being done, it's just 18 months. In China, we do get things done if the, if the plan. So 2011, Wellington College Tianjin, 2014, Wellington College Shanghai, and 2016, we opened the nursery of Hebei, Shanghai. 2018 is a big opening year. We have the School of Hebei Shanghai on a separate campus. And then in Hangzhou, we have both Wellington College and Hebei Academy in Hangzhou sharing the same campus. And in 2022, which that was a difficult year, that was in the midst of COVID lockdown, we actually opened the boarding school, the flagship boarding school of Hebei Academy in Nantong. This is a very small picture, but you can kind of get a scale of the, you get a sense of the scale of the campus. This will be a wonderful opportunity for those of you who truly want to pursue an international experience for your children. Just like I sent my children here to board in US boarding school, maybe one day some of you will think, actually, I want to send my child boarding in China. Then Hebei Nantong is the boarding school that you should be applying for. And 2026. So you can see the rate of opening new schools is roughly every 3 or 4 years. And that's the good rhythm, because it's usually after a school is open, then we have the energy of moving towards the next project. So currently we have just under 5,400 students in China from over 50 countries. So we're a very international community. So we have, I've counted with you, we have 6 campuses in 4 cities in China. And of all these campuses, we have over 5,000 pupils. So it's a very mature, very mature, very high-performing school. And we have more than 1,300 members of staff from 30 different countries. Out of these 1,300 members of staff, roughly half of them are teachers, the other half are TAs and non-academic supporting staff. But you can see the ratio of adult to pupil ratio, it's quite well provided for, which is reflecting our ultra-premium positioning in the education. Now, I don't know about parents here in San Francisco. You might be more laid back. But we have a lot of tiger parents in China. When they send their children to early years, they will ask our head teacher, what kind of university will my smart little boy be going to when they graduate? And it's nice that we are able to show them these statistics. This is the latest information from our latest 2025 cohort of graduates. I will show you the bigger numbers. 24% of them got an offer from world's top 10 universities by QS ranking. 40% of them got an offer from world's top 20. So actually world top 20 universities, any university in the world's top 20 universities are top universities. And quite a majority of them get into world top 50 universities. And this is given that many of them actually don't necessarily go for the universities that are high in the QS ranking. They go to the liberal arts colleges, they might go to art and music colleges. So given that, we can be assured, and we're largely non-selective. We're largely non-selective in China. Once you come to our school, we don't select. So if you are in early years, you progress to primary, you progress to secondary school. There is no selecting out. Therefore, from a largely non-selective student body, we're able to produce these amazing university destinations. And this is a combination of the academic value add, but also helping each child finding their intrinsic passion. So they can excel in the area that they're passionate about, and they have the world's university at their choice. And this is the nice thing about being an international school. You don't really think about just one country. You know, if you grow up in Hiba Academy Bay Area, you might not just think about Californian universities, even though there are so many good ones. You will truly be looking at universities worldwide and think, where would the next stage of my life take me? And these are just some of the universities that we have gotten our pupil into. Stanford, this is just this year, by the way. You know, Stanford, this is a very nice offer. Duke, Northwestern, Cornell, Columbia. And in the UK, I mean, every year we get Oxford and Cambridge. That's just a given now. And I mentioned my son is now at Caltech, although he got to Caltech by also spending a few years in an American boarding school. But 2 students from his year in Wellington College, Shanghai, also got Caltech offers, 2 of his best friends. And one of them chose to go to Cambridge instead, but the other one is also now at Caltech. So my son is now with his best mate, who he grew up with in Shanghai, both at Caltech, and both swimming for Caltech as well. Yeah. So it is a small world. Okay, so then it brings us to the journey here. After all these schools opening in China, I now have the ambition of opening Hiba Academy in San Francisco. Now, I suppose before answering all these questions, I first of all need to explain, why do I need to open a school? Why do I want to open a school outside of China? And this is related to a much bigger purpose and much bigger picture. Because I feel that in China, we're bringing up these more than 5,000 students in a very nice bilingual, biliteral way, and we're giving them the global perspective while they're growing up, but they're all currently in China. And I do feel that the understanding between China and the rest of the world is not something that's currently going the right way, is it? We actually need more people who can bridge China, between China and the rest of the world. So it is always my ambition to take my bilingual model of education outside of China so that more non-Chinese people can learn Chinese from a very young age and can have an appreciation of the Chinese culture and philosophy and values from a young age. So it's not necessary to change your perspective or change your standing, but at least to equip you with the means of communicating and influencing the Chinese people. Currently, if you look at bilingual Chinese people, bilingual people who can fluently speaking English and Chinese. When I did a bit of a research on AI not long ago, do you have an estimate worldwide how many people can fluently speak English and Chinese? Take a guess. So it's actually quite a big number, something like 20, 30 million people. There are 20, 30 million people. But in terms of percentage of the worldwide people, in terms of the percentage of Chinese population, is actually very small. And the point is, vast majority of those 20, 30 million people are Chinese or of Chinese heritage. There are actually not nearly enough people who are non-Chinese heritage who can speak Chinese fluently. Which means that, and if any of you achieve that, then it will be a very scarce resource, isn't it? It will be sought after. But even though there are 20, 30 million people who can fluently speak both English and Chinese, when you look at the percentage of Chinese population, I asked DeepSeek, which is the Chinese AI, the large language model, not long ago, and I asked what percentage of the Chinese population can fluently speak English. And that percentage came out to be very surprising to me. DeepSeek estimates only 1%. And I thought, surely that's not the case, because everybody learns Chinese in school now. But then I suppose DeepSeek is looking at the percentage of the total population, and much of the total population are older. They probably didn't go through school learning very much Chinese. And the other problem with the Chinese learning, remember I talked about the class size being more than 40 people. How do you learn a language in a class of 40 people? So they might be able to read and write English fairly well, but the ability to speak and to the listening comprehension, to converse in English is probably limited. So there's just not enough people in the world, I feel, who can navigate the linguistic and cultural chasm between China and the rest of the world, which is why this is quite a long sort of contextual background of why I'm setting up a school outside of China. But then why San Francisco? And how is it all funded? So let me talk about how is it all funded. We did very clearly state that we're not for profit. There is no financial investment in our organization. I'm the sole founder and owner of the whole group. The reason I can do this is because I told you I had a landlord partner. So when I started in China, I didn't have to pay for the building. The building was made to order, and we are just paying a rent. And the rent is a very reasonable rent at the startup stage. Once we're full, we pay the commercial rent. So that's how we got started. And the schools are very successful in China. They are oversubscribed for many years. And therefore, they do generate a healthy surplus. But because we are not-for-profit, that healthy surplus stays in the organization. Most of it stays at the school level, but all the school will group up, will contribute towards a group development fund, which then is used to open these new schools. So that's the source of the funding. Our existing mature schools in China are basically funding our venture in San Francisco. But that funding comes in the form of a loan. So it's my vision that in the long term, every school have to fund itself. So we are loaning San Francisco project the money to purchase the building, to fit it out, and for it to operate. But it's a long-term loan with very reasonable interest. So in the long term, if we are successful, we should be able to pay back the China Group Development Fund. But if we are not successful, that's going to probably become bad debt. That's how it's funded. So to reassure everybody that there is no venture capitalist funding in this, there is no plan to sell it, there's no plan to list it. We only want to do good education. That's why it will start humbly, we'll start small, and but it's sustainable growth plan. So this is the source of funding. Why San Francisco? So I'm a trained scientist, so usually when I make very important decisions, I do use data-backed decision-making. So I commissioned a worldwide study from a consulting company called LEK, which is probably the leading consulting company in the international education industry. And we looked at more than 20 cities worldwide, including the likes of San Francisco, LA, New York, Toronto, Vancouver, Melbourne, Hong Kong even. We looked at, and London, some cities in Europe. We looked at the economic development, the acceptance of private school, the popularity of bilingual schools in the local market, as well as percentage of Chinese or Chinese ethnicity population locally, and ease of doing business. How easy is it to acquire land and building? How easy it is to get a license to operate a school? All of those factors were put into consideration, and San Francisco actually came out among the top. And LA is a very close second. And the next one is actually New York. So the top 3 cities in terms of affordability, as well as private school acceptance, as well as ease of doing business are in the US. And therefore, we selected San Francisco. But there is also an emotional part to it. San Francisco is on the west coast of the US. It is the gateway towards the Asia Pacific. And I found out quite a while ago that San Francisco and Shanghai has been sister cities for more than 45 years. I grew up in Shanghai, so how perfect that we're going to have a school, Hiba School in San Francisco. And apparently it has the first Chinatown in the US. So the Chinese tradition, the Chinese language and culture, and the people, the tradition is deeply rooted in San Francisco. And I do feel the diversity and the inclusiveness in San Francisco, that it's very easy to be accepted, to fit in. So in San Francisco, it's easy to stand out and fit in at the same time. Everybody kind of stand out, and you encourage this individualism, isn't it? But at the same time, that everything is accepted. Nobody raised an eyebrow when I say I'm coming, in San Francisco. I'm coming to San Francisco to set up school. I usually am met with excitement and acceptance. When I say that in China with some of my friends, they would be saying, "Oh, are you sure you want to do that? Under the current geopolitical situation, they're going to shut you down." But that's why I feel the open-mindedness. Our slogan for this school here is "Minds Wide Open," and I do feel San Francisco is the city for that. So that's why San Francisco. I hope I've picked the right city. I hope we've picked the right location. We spent a lot of effort looking through 50, 60 different properties, didn't we, before we decided upon this one. And the more I see it, the more I like it. It's going to be, this current building only has capacity for about 450 to 500 students. So it's currently ideally designed for early years and primary only. And we're planning to open from pre-K3 all the way up to grade 1 in the first year. Then every year we'll open a new year group. The school will grow with the children. The reason why I'm only opening the very young year group is that the vision of the immersive bilingualism requires that the children come to us at a relatively young age. If they come to us at age 10, it's a very different kind of language learning. If they come to us at 5 or 6 years old or 3 years old, even better. The younger, the better, actually. Chinese is a very hard language to learn. For those of you who didn't grow up in China, who try to learn Chinese, I do have a colleague. Where's Carmen? Is Carmen in here? Probably. coming, yeah. I do have a colleague who talked about going to these weekend Chinese language schools, right? And you hated it when you were growing up. And it's hard. And, but if only you had a Hiba when you were growing up, then the language learning is done during the week. So our growth plan is we hope the school can grow with the child. And once we reach the upper years of the primary, we'll definitely be looking at suitable venues for middle school and high school. And as we are not-for-profit, as we don't have financial backers in this project, I have to be honest, my own personal means, our own group's means is limited. Therefore, I'm hoping I'm kindling a fire here. I'm kindling a fire. The fire then will burn. Then we'll get community support. We'll get enough people to support us so that we're able to grow the school in the future. Okay. So the vision about Hiba, and people did ask me, why do you have two different brands? What is Wellington and what is Hiba? So I started with Wellington. So my initial vision is to bring a premium British school to China, which can educate, not only teaching my children English, but also providing a more progressive kind of education. So it's smaller class size, more inquiry-based, more teamwork, collaboration, communication. All of that was provided in the Wellington School where my boys grew up in Shanghai, and it's a beautiful, wonderful education. They turn out to be better than I could ever imagine. So it is a very solid, premium English medium international education. But there was one issue with Wellington education, which is Chinese is taught as a language only. So we did have different Chinese stream. There's native language, second language, and foreign language Chinese stream. But Chinese is taught as a subject. So every day you have a Chinese class, Chinese lesson, but all other classes are taught in English, which means my children's Chinese are pretty good. I mean, they certainly will be regarded as very good once they come to America. But compared to native Chinese speakers, there is still a gap. Not in day-to-day conversation, but when it comes to academic discussions. You know, when it comes to technical vocabularies, they don't really have the technical vocabularies in Chinese. And also there are certain things, I talked about the work ethos in the Chinese education system. I mean, usually Chinese people complain about the Chinese education system. It's, you know, large class, too much homework, exam oriented and all of that. But that said, there are certain things in the Chinese education system which is very distinct and very strong. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if both linguistically and in other subjects, we can combine the best of both worlds. So, and that's how the Hiba idea came about, because our Wellington schools in China can only be accessible by foreign passport holders. If you're a Chinese citizen and you want to go to a school in China, then you have to deliver the Chinese national curriculum. Therefore, we developed the Hiba curriculum based on the English national curriculum as well as the Chinese national curriculum. We do cross-comparison of all the subjects in all the year groups, and we take the highest standard of both. And that's the Hiba curriculum. It's the highest standard of the English national curriculum and Chinese national curriculum. And when you take the highest standard of both, you get very high standards in curriculum. And Colette, and we have Monisha, who is doing the curriculum development for San Francisco now, isn't it? It's based on the Hiba curriculum in China, but now putting the US layer. If there is a US layer that is higher in any area of than these, then we'll take the higher standard and we'll localize it as well. So in Chinese, it's called 鱼和熊掌兼得. In English, you don't literally translate it. You say having the cake and eat it, which means you have the best of both worlds. Do you know what 鱼和熊掌兼得 literally means? It means fish and bear's paw. Fish and bear's paw are both two delicacies, very expensive. Usually, you only get to choose one. 鱼和熊掌兼得, fish and bear's paw, having both means you can have the best of both worlds. But that's the cultural thing. If I translated that literally, nobody would have gotten what on earth what I was talking about. So I have to say, having the cake and eat it. Okay, so I want to explain a little bit more about exactly what we mean by immersive bilingual education. Immersive bilingual curriculum. First of all, English and Chinese are both taught by native speakers. So this is a bilingual school. This is not a school specializing in Chinese teaching. So there will be a 50-50 immersion in early years in primary, both in English and Chinese. And when they're immersed in the language, they're taught by native language speakers. And they're both taught to native level standards by the national standard. So the English standard is meeting the English national standard, which I'm sure is comparable with the US standard. The Chinese language standard is taught to the Chinese national level, which is why you have to come young. If you come to us at age 10, there's no way I can deliver that. But if you come to me at 3, I'll definitely deliver that. And the proof of that is all our children in Hebei, in China, they are meeting the English national standard in the English language. And this is the bit that most people don't realize. All subjects are taught in both languages. So Chinese is not just taught as a language lesson. You're not just learning Chinese as a subject. Chinese is your medium of instruction for all subjects as well. So PE might be taught by a Chinese teacher in Chinese. Music might be taught by a Chinese. Science and maths will almost certainly be taught by a Chinese teacher. I'll come on to the subject of maths. And 50-50 immersion in early years in primary, leading towards a bilingual IBDP diploma. Do we know the significance of a bilingual IB diploma? Bilingual IB diploma means you do 2 languages A. So in IB diploma, you usually have to do 2 languages anyway, but you do your native language as a language A, and you do a second language as a language B. A language B is like a foreign language or second language standard. But to do 2 languages in language A means you master 2 languages to a native level. Almost all our students in Hebei, China, in Hebei, Shanghai, gets bilingual diploma in IBDP diploma. And that's the aspiration we have for our children here. So that's the immersive bilingual curriculum. So this is delivering, in my opinion, a Wellington Plus. This is delivering everything that my children, my boys experienced and more. Because if we had a Hebei when they were growing up, I would have sent them to a Hebei, but they missed the boat. Maybe for grandchildren. And okay, and then there's the next thing. We teach Shanghai maths. Sometimes it's almost taken for granted that we Chinese people are good at maths. I do have a UK head teacher who once joked with me. He's British. He is from North Island. Northern Ireland. He's British. He said, my son, one day he came back from school and he said, Dad, I came top in my class in maths. There is just one boy who is ahead of me, Chen, but he doesn't count. He's from China. And I don't know quite how to take that because this, it's a mainly English people, and there's this Chinese boy, and he's always top of class. Therefore, the head teacher's son thinks that he's top of class because Chen doesn't count. But that's a joke, and. But there is that perception. And also, do you remember I nearly failed my maths exam in Tsinghua University? When I got to Oxford, when I shared all those maths courses with mathematicians, the maths professor did say to me, "You're one of the best mathematicians I've ever taught." And that's at Oxford. So this is not to boast myself. This is to boast the Shanghai maths that I was brought up with. I don't really have the insights of how we achieve it. I think, Colette, you have a pretty good idea, and Manisha, you have a good idea, and our educators in China certainly know how it's delivered. But I think it's a combination of very deliberately designed progression. So you master something before you move on to the next step, isn't it? And some hard work in the foundational stage is needed, like the times table probably should be memorized. And that's definitely something I remember when Daniel, my older son Daniel, did spend 3 years in a local Chinese school. And by the end of grade 1 or grade 2, they basically memorized the whole times table. And by the way, the times table is so much easier to memorize in Chinese, because in Chinese, every number is 1 syllabus. Like 7 is 2, isn't it? 6 is kind of hard to pronounce. But if you try to recite the times table in Chinese, it's much more rhythm. like 6636, 7749. But no. All of these, we will be teaching maths in Chinese by the Chinese teacher, and it's so much easier to learn. It just makes sense, like octagon is an 8-sided shape. That's much easier to understand for a young child, isn't it? Triangle is three-angled shape. Yeah, it's very logical. Chinese language is very logical, which is a wonderful language to learn maths in. And to show that maths is indeed brilliant in Hiba, this is the Hiba Academy Shanghai IGCSE score. IGCSE is the UK 16. It's a UK qualification for students at the age of 16. Now, this is all the subjects. The UK average, by the way, is something like 29% A to A star. Our Hiba Shanghai delivers 85% A to A star. So all of the subjects are excellent. And when you look at the mathematics, 89% of them achieve A to A star. So if you don't get an A or A to A star in Hiba Shanghai in maths, you really are the outlier. I don't know who that 2% is, actually. We should really be getting 100% A to A star in GCSE. And this is the maths score in IB. So 7 is the top score, and our average is 6.4. So as somebody who knows IB maths, this is impressive. So we will deliver that. This brings me to the education ethos of Hiba Academy in San Francisco. So the simple image that people might have of us is that we're the school that teaches Chinese. And I assure you, we are first and foremost a very, very high quality school in terms of academic achievement. Because I started in China, right? I operate international schools in China. If the main feature of my school is to teach Chinese, I won't have a business in China. Therefore, we are first and foremost academically excellent. We are also taking the best practices internationally. So we are quite progressive. I don't know whether progressive, that word is sort of, maybe progressive is not necessarily a positive word here, but we are not the kind of traditional classroom that you have in mind. So we deliver to very high academic standards, but we do it in a way that caters for the personal well-being very much. We do want every child to find the intrinsic motivation in them. Every child is different. So they do go on to different universities doing different subjects. And so they are treated as an individual. So these are academic excellence and personal well-being are the key feature of our education. And we happen to do it in a bilingual way that caters for the global perspective. So these features, so I don't want people to walk away with just the thinking, oh, you come here and you can learn Chinese. No, you come here and you learn all subjects to the highest level possible, and you are connected to the rest of the world. And we can do that because we have the best teachers. We currently are well on our way in teacher recruitment, isn't it? So teachers will be recruited both locally from San Francisco, but also I heard there are quite a few teachers in our schools in China who's put in their application to come and teach here. And those are the bilingual teachers who are Chinese, who will come here and perhaps do 3 years. And they will be the ones who teach Chinese and maths in the early years and primary. And we've won the HR Asia Best Companies to Work For in Asia for 6th time in a row now, and we're the only educational organization to ever win that reward. And I talked about one of the key features of being part of Hiba Academy in San Francisco is being part of this global network. And we have a lot of schools in China, of course, and we do have Thailand, we have Jakarta opening, we have India. They're looking at Africa. They have found a partner in Africa, so they're looking at Africa, and we have the Hiba San Francisco. Of course, this all came from England in the first place. What does that mean for our students? It means that they grow up immersed in all these opportunities to connect and to experience the world. These are the experiences that you go to the place, right? So, for example, we send our pupils to all sorts of worldwide trips. This is alumni gathering. These are all graduates from Wellington College in China, and they're currently studying in UK universities. So we had a lovely gathering in London. These are all Chinese students having a summer camp in Crowthorne in the UK. But this is also a nice one. This is Wellington Prep student from the UK coming to China. So they boarded in our Nantong boarding house for a while. And these are the picture of the UK boarders. So we have international scholars recruited from the UK. They're now in our boarding school in Nantong. So being part of this network means you will grow up being naturally having experience and interaction with children from all over the world. And that will definitely widen your perspective. And these are just the trips. But imagine, when we were little, we used to have pen pal. We had pen pal write a letter in English, to a student in America, and they write us a letter back. Nowadays, you can have FaceTime pal, right? You're connected with a child of the same age in Shanghai or in Hangzhou, and then they can show you their home. And imagine that kind of experience. It will really give you the real picture of what life is like in another country, which I don't think you get from the media. Which brings me towards the end of my presentation, why I do this. I already briefly mentioned that. I don't think the world is, well, raise your hand if you think geopolitically China and US are getting closer together. The world is a chaotic place. I mean, these are Gaza. Gaza, we have good news recently, don't we? And this is the Ukraine war. And the tariff war between China and US really is posing a lot of challenges for organizations like us who try to operate across different countries. There might be a different visa law in the next day. There might be a different tariff level the next day. We were looking at importing some furniture from China. Now we've given up on that idea because it will be too risky. We don't know what the tariff will be. So all of these geopolitical tension and uncertainties is creating a lot of challenges and probably cost to a lot of people. And also raise your hand if you think both of our governments are doing a good job in engaging and negotiating with each other. Nobody raise your hand. My third question is, raise your hand if you're at least a little bit worried that all of this is going to somehow escalate into a bigger conflict and into a real war. Yeah, me too. I'm actually really quite scared. Now, solving these problems is way above my pay grade. I have no influence whatsoever on what's happening currently between our two governments. And sometimes when I watch the news, I do get quite sad and I do get quite worried, which is why I turn my attention to the next generation. Imagine the next generation of Hiba Academy students who are brought up bilingually, multiculturally, with the deep understanding of the values and philosophy and the culture, history, geography on both sides, who make up their own mind what they stand for. It won't be the same. Those students who grew up in San Francisco will be different from those who grew up in the UK or in China. But the point is they have a means of communication. They have the open-mindedness to feel curious about differences rather than scared about it. And this is the purpose of why we do what we do, especially in a chaotic world. I think this enforces our determination, isn't it? The more difficult things get, the more determined we're going to do this, because this is the world that we're influencing in 30 years' time, 40 years' time. Because as a humanity, we have bigger fishes to fry. I think instead of fighting each other, we need to be worried about bigger things. I was recently, just indulge me for a few more minutes. I'm a computer scientist, therefore I'm sort of kept up to date. I'm keeping myself up to date with the development of AI. I recently watched an interview of Geoffrey Hinton, who is the sort of seen as the godfather of AI, who is the professor for Alia Sutskever, who is the chief scientist for OpenAI. Now, Elliot left OpenAI some time ago because of safety concerns, and Jeffrey Hinton is very clear about the potential danger of AI. First of all, the short-term danger is humankind using AI for destructive purposes, and that's the short term. But the longer-term danger is AI just become a superior species, and it can take over. And in his exact words, he says, ask what it feels like to be an inferior species, ask a chicken what it feels like to be with a human. So those are kind of scary big things. And I'm also of the mind that technology is always neutral. Technology is neither bad or good, and AI can be used for a lot of good things, but it magnifies human intention. Imagine you have technology that is so powerful that it can magnify your intention. If the intention is hostile, imagine that magnifies by 1,000,000 times, which is why we should come back to the basics, of the kindness towards each other, of open-mindedness, of understanding how we can coexist. This is what I always taught to myself. When I feel worried, when I feel scared, I channel that energy into just doing a better job for our next generation of children, because they are going to grow up and influence the world in 30 years' time, 50 years' time. And this is why we're here to open Hiba Academy in Bay Area in San Francisco. That concludes my speech today. I think I've gone on a lot longer than I'm meant to, but I can see an engaged audience, actually. So hopefully some of what I said resonated with you. Thank you so much again for coming to us tonight. The bar will be open again. We can have a bit more social time if you still have time. And all our Hiba Academy team is here today, and we're delighted to chat with you, to understand your needs and your wishes for the school. Thank you so much.